First, Mr. Spicer has represented that he is not aware of any investigation that was targeting the president, and presumably no court-ordered surveillance of the president. He has also said that he is confident that the president was speaking accurately when he said he was wiretapped by his predecessor. Those two things cannot both be true unless he is suggesting that the FBI was engaged in a rogue operation unsupervised by a court to wiretap Trump Tower. There is absolutely no evidence of that, and no suggestion of any evidence of that. And I think to even put that forth, it was irresponsible of the president and his spokesman. And I also, in terms of our oversight responsibility, want to make one other point, and that is, while I think it perfectly appropriate that we oversee the FISA process and the unmasking of any names, if any of that is implicated in any way, I have seen no evidence of any illegality in terms of any electronic surveillance pertaining to your questions. So I don't want anything to be surmised that we're suggesting otherwise.
Chairman Smith, if you don't get those
Much has been made about the president's comments in an interview with Bill O'Reilly about not a smidgen of corruption here. How do you respond to that?
It's a sad statement from our commander-in-chief.
What do you want the American people to hear? What do you want them to do?
I want them to remember who we are. The government works for us. It is of the people, and we should not be silent.
Congressman, before this woman became part of the Tea Party, she had never been audited. She has had 15 audits, 4 federal agencies. OSHA, FBI has been out to her 6 times, IRS audit, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and she's even gotten a letter from a Democratic congressman about this. Coincidence?
Oh, boy, it's hard to argue that's a coincidence. And
you know, Congressman, to me, it's like there's a zero chance this is a coincidence. Zero chance. The minute she got involved with Tea Party politics, suddenly, I mean, the FBI 6 times to visit her. That's stunning. And the first time she gets audited personally and professionally or business, that's absolutely stunning and terrifying. I mean, when you go through this list, all of a sudden, and the only thing that's changed is she's become a Tea Party member. That's the only thing. Otherwise, she was just a businesswoman, uninvolved. I mean, it's terrifying when this happens.
It is, and you can understand the frustration of Jimmy Jordan and others when after 6 months and having 12 people assigned to, quote, investigate it, she hasn't even been interviewed. Now, the FBI went and talked to her when she was politically active, but they haven't talked to her about her allegations of criminal wrongdoing against the IRS. That's what's so frustrating, is they'll talk to her to try to silence her and chill her free speech, but they won't talk to her when she makes allegations against the IRS. So, by the way, for the President
of the United States will go to television to state that there's not a smidgen of corruption. He said that a couple of years ago. Or more recently, that there's absolutely no evidence of wrongdoing, which is interesting because the Federal Bureau of Investigation is allegedly still investigating this matter and hasn't made a determination. So I don't know where the President is not speaking to the Department of Justice, but apparently that seems to be the situation. The Department of Justice was part of this from the beginning. So this idea that the Department of Justice is engaged in this independent inquiry is nonsense. And the fact of the matter is, as the GAO said a few days ago, quote, unfortunately, the IRS has not taken sufficient steps to prevent targeting Americans based on their personal beliefs.
The President of the United States, whoever that is, sets the tone for the federal government. And when the United States President goes to the State of the Union address and denounces the United States Supreme Court and our decision, the Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, which really was a First Amendment case first and foremost, that's what it did. It allowed more people to participate in the process. The Democrats didn't like it, and what they did was they wanted the IRS and the FEC to come down on 501c4s. So the president, in his attack at the State of the Union, really set the stage for it. And then within weeks, Chuck Schumer and a list of left-wing senators. Send a letter to the IRS demanding that the IRS do just that, really look closely at all of the conservative groups. And so the IRS is not out there doing things that the powers that be don't want them to do.
If they actually failed to retrieve these emails, God forbid they actually deleted them intentionally, that's the worst case scenario, but if they just did have a computer glitch and now have phoned it in on trying to actually retrieve them, then they are not complying with their legal obligations. That is a serious matter.
But this administration never complies with its legal obligations. It uses the executive branch as a tool to go after political opponents. And the truth is that the policing organization here, the organization that was supposed to make sure criminality doesn't happen, is led by probably the worst criminal in the administration, Eric Holder, right, who's actually been held in contempt by Congress.
Harsh words.
Well, he is a criminal. I mean, he's been held in contempt by Congress. He doesn't care about that. He's essentially obstructed justice on multiple cases, ranging from Fast and Furious to the DOJ investigation of reporters, including a Fox News reporter. And that's what this administration does.
Okay.